Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next hour. US Senate inching towards vote on Donald Trump's spending bill. Many Republicans remain divided over the proposal, which would deliver key parts of Trump's domestic agenda while making massive cuts to social welfare programs. In Serbia, thousands of protesters continue to block major roads in Belgrade and other cities, demanding end to President Alexander Vucic's 12-year rule and snap elections. 2 firefighters shot dead with a high-powered rifle after responding to a brush fire in Idaho, US. Body of man found by SWAT team, gun nearby. Area continues to report active wildfire. Wildfire risk as climate change fuels extreme heat wave in southern Europe. Italy, Greece, Spain and Portugal remain most affected. Most of France placed under heat wave alert. Ayush Shetty ends India's BWF title drought in 2025, winning his first World Tour title, lifts the US Open Super 300 with solid straight games win over Canada's Brian Yang. And third and oldest Grand Slam of the year, Wimbledon begins on Monday. Alcaraz, Sinner, Djokovic headline men's lineup. Eyes on Sabalenka, Rybakina and Coco Gauff in women's singles. Well, news in detail now. US lawmakers are debating President Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill on the Senate floor as part of a marathon process. The US Senate narrowly advanced President Donald Trump's sweeping tax cut and spending bill on Saturday during a weekend session marked by political drama, division and lengthy delays as Democrats sought to slow the legislation's path to passage. Lawmakers voted 51 to 49 to open debate on the 940-page mega bill, with 2 of Trump's fellow Republicans joining Democrats to oppose the legislation. Trump is heaping pressure on Congress to pass the sweeping tax cuts and spending package in time for him to sign it on July 4th that would fund the president's top immigration, border, tax cut and military priorities. And US President Donald Trump said in an interview broadcast on Sunday that he had found a buyer for TikTok short video app, which he described as a group of very wealthy people whose identities he will reveal in about 2 weeks. He said the deal he is developing would probably need China's approval to move forward, and he predicted Chinese President Xi Jinping would likely approve it. The US President earlier this month had extended to September 17 a deadline for China-based ByteDance to divest the US assets of TikTok despite a law that mandated a sale or shutdown without significant progress.
No big deal. We have a buyer for TikTok, by the way. I think I'll need probably China approval. I think President Xi will probably do it.
Well, after revealing that a group of very wealthy people is set to purchase TikTok's US operations, Trump plans to disclose the group's identities in 2 weeks, stating the deal likely needs China's approval. Now, let's take a look at a timeline about the course of TikTok over the years. 2020, during his previous tenure, Donald Trump orders TikTok ban, citing Chinese data risk. And after the order, US courts blocked the ban directive. The very next year, in 2021, Biden revoked Trump's ban, reviews foreign apps for security. And in 2023, Biden banned TikTok on federal devices. DOJ probes spying claims. April 2024, Biden signed PAFACA, or Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary-Controlled Applications Act, mandates ByteDance divest TikTok by January 19, 2025. In December 2024, DC Circuit upheld PAFACA against TikTok's First Amendment challenge. And then, early this year, in January 2025, Supreme Court affirmed law. TikTok briefly offline on January 18. And then January 20, 2025, Trump extended divestment deadline by 75 days. And then 3 months later, on April 4th, 2025, Trump granted second extension to mid-June 2025. And then a few days ago, on June 19 this year, Trump extended deadline to September 17, 2025 for the third time. On June 29th, Trump claimed a wealthy group to buy TikTok. Moving on, the 12-day-long Israel-Iran conflict ended with a ceasefire after Trump claimed to have obliterated Iran's nuclear program. But now the UN nuclear watchdog chief has raised eyebrows with a striking claim that Iran could possibly resume production of enriched uranium within months. Iran, meanwhile, has voiced serious doubts over Israel's commitment to the truce. Our next report by DD India's Mihir Mekhuri has the details.
Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
Just days after Trump's explosive announcement on Iran, the head of the UN's nuclear watchdog has detonated another political shockwave. Rafael Grossi said Iran could be capable of producing enriched uranium within months, reigniting fears of a nuclear flashpoint.
Iran had a very vast, ambitious program, and part of it may still be there. And if not, there is also the self-evident truth that the knowledge is there, the industrial capacity is there. Iran is a very sophisticated country in terms of nuclear technology, as is obvious. So you cannot disinvent this.
This comes on the heels of a dramatic escalation in June. Israeli strikes targeting Iranian nuke and military sites, followed by a US military intervention and a truce. Grossi is now advocating diplomacy over destruction.
Military operations or not, you are not going to solve this in a definitive way militarily. You are going to have an agreement. You are going to have an inspection system that will give everybody in the region and elsewhere the assurances that we can definitely turn the page.
As Iran mourns, it laid to rest top military and nuclear figures killed in the war with Israel. But the nation's pain deepened further with Iran confirming at least 71 deaths in an Israeli strike on Tehran's notorious Evin prison on June 23, many believed to be political detainees. Meanwhile, the fragile truce brokered by Trump is already showing cracks. Iran's top military commander has publicly voiced skepticism, saying Tehran doubts Israel's commitment to the ceasefire, casting long shadows over the agreement's longevity. In Israel, German Interior Minister visited the site of a deadly Iranian missile strike in Bat Yam that killed 9 civilians. There, he delivered a blunt message. If Iran possessed nuclear arms, they would not hesitate to use them.
We can see here how real the threat is. We see here that war is being waged on the civilian population. There are no military targets here. It is a terror attack on the civilian population. And when you see the damage that is caused by a rocket attack from Iran, then there is no doubt that would Iran have the nuclear possibility, they would use it against Israel.
With weapons, words, and wounds shaping the region's future, the question is no longer if the world can disarm Iran, but how to defuse a crisis before it explodes further. Mihir Mekhuri for DD India.
Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Sunday that Israel's 12-day war with Iran ending June 24 opened opportunities to free 50 hostages held by Hamas in Gaza since October 7, 2023. A Jerusalem court delayed his corruption trial testimony, citing diplomatic reasons, fueling speculation of progress in Gaza talks. Israeli military chief Eyal Zamir suggested the Iran conflict could advance objectives against Hamas. Netanyahu prioritized hostage release as per the Hostages and Missing Families Forum. U.S. proposed ceasefire talks continue. However, Hamas demands a full Israeli withdrawal, while Israel insists on dismantling Hamas. Israel's Netanyahu on Sunday spoke to Israel's Shin Bet intelligence service alongside its new temporary head following Ronen Bar's June 15 resignation amid government efforts to remove him. Netanyahu hailed the elimination of two deadly threats to Israel's survival, referring to the recent 12-day war with Iran.
I want to inform you that many opportunities have now opened up, as you surely know, following this victory. First and foremost, to rescue the hostages. Of course, we will also need to resolve the issue of Gaza to defeat Hamas, but I believe we will achieve both missions. Beyond that, broad regional opportunities are opening up, in most of which, almost all, you are partners.
Now, the Jerusalem District Court cancelled Prime Minister Netanyahu's corruption trial hearings this week, accepting his request, citing classified diplomatic and security grounds. The decision followed U.S. President Donald Trump's social media post suggesting the trial could hinder Netanyahu's negotiations with Hamas and Iran. Netanyahu, indicted in 2019 for bribery, fraud and breach of trust, denies the charges, calling them a left-wing witch hunt. Trump claimed a Gaza ceasefire is near, though details remain unclear. The ruling aligns with heightened efforts to resolve the Gaza conflict post-Iran war. U.S. President Donald Trump criticized Israeli prosecutors over Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's corruption trial, calling it insanity that hampers talks with Hamas and Iran. U.S. President lashed out at prosecutors in Israel, saying Washington, having given billions of dollars worth of aid to Israel, was not going to stand for this. Netanyahu retweeted Trump's Truth Social post thanking him. Trump claimed a Gaza ceasefire is near, though details are scarce amid heightened focus post-U.S. Israeli strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. Now, Israel has ordered Palestinians to evacuate from parts of northern Gaza ahead of increased military action as U.S. President Donald Trump pushes for a ceasefire deal. People in neighborhoods across Gaza City and Jabalia have been told to move south towards the coastal area of Al-Mawasi as Israeli military operations intensify and expand westward. Trump has reiterated calls to make the deal in Gaza and to get the hostages back. On Saturday, Trump had said on Truth Social that Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was in the process of negotiating a deal with Hamas right now. Meanwhile, the Israel Defense Forces spokesman Avichai Adrai said on Sunday that the Israeli military was operating in North Gaza to eliminate terrorists and terrorist infrastructure. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has signed a decree on the country's withdrawal from the Ottawa Convention on Sunday, which bans the production and use of anti-personnel mines. The presidential website. In a video message, Zelensky emphasized that Russia was never a member of the convention, not even during its conflict with Ukraine. A senior Ukrainian lawmaker said that parliamentary approval is still needed to withdraw from the treaty. Ukraine ratified the convention in 2005. Russian Culture Minister Olga Lyubimova arrived in North Korea on Saturday with a 125-strong delegation of performers. A video released by North Korean state media KCNA showed Lyubimova getting off her plane at the Pyongyang International Airport as North Korean officials, including North Korean Culture Minister Sung Jong-gyu and the Russian ambassador to North Korea Alexander Matsegora, greeted her. Lyubimova stated that a series of concerts and lectures would take place in the North Korean capital in the coming days. She praised cultural cooperation between Moscow and Pyongyang for achieving unprecedented heights. The visit, invited by North Korea's Ministry of Culture, marks the first anniversary of the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Treaty between Russia and North Korea. We are slipping into a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. New York jury to decide Sean Diddy Combs' future as sex trafficking case wraps. Jair Bolsonaro rallies support in Sao Paulo as coup trial nears final stage in Brazil's Supreme Court. And voters turned out at polling stations in Chile to choose Boric's successor ahead of November election.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar.
Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. A strange incident was reported from the northwestern US state of Idaho, where two people have been fatally shot in a mountain community while they were responding to a brush fire. Police said the shooter or shooters were using high-power spotting rifles to fire rapidly at first responders near the city of Coeur d'Alene. Police added that the number of people wounded in the attack remains unknown. FBI assets are at the incident site to provide tactical and operational support. The bushfire is still burning in the city of around 56,000 people, which is near the border with Washington state. Former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro drew hundreds on Sunday to Sao Paulo's main avenue in a rally to drum up support ahead of a judicial case pending in the Supreme Court for coup charges. A trial over his involvement in an alleged coup plot to secure the presidency in 2022 elections is reaching its final stages in the Supreme Court. According to Brazilian media, testimonies and defendants have already declared, and it will now be the turn for the prosecutor's office to present its final allegations. During his speech, Bolsonaro mentioned his trip to the US in December 2022 to dodge President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva's inauguration on January 1st, 2023 in Brasilia. The riots took place on January 8 at the same location. And thousands of protesters blocked major roads in Belgrade and other Serbian cities as demonstrations calling for snap elections continued into a second night following Saturday's huge rally in the capital. On Saturday, over 1 lakh people rallied in central Belgrade, the latest gathering in over half a year of demonstrations triggered by the collapse of a train station roof in the city of Novi Sad in November, killing 16 people in a disaster widely blamed on shoddy construction resulting from entrenched corruption. Clashes with police ended with dozens of arrests as riot officers used tear gas and batons to attempt to disperse a crowd that also threw bottles and flares. Earlier on Sunday, President Alexander Vučić remained defiant against protesters' demands for early elections, accusing the student-led movement of causing terror. Voters turned out at polling stations in Chile in a primary election to choose President Gabriel Boric's successor on Sunday, who will run for the presidency from the left-wing coalition in the next presidential polls in November. Around 15.4 million voters were called to cast their votes for one of the four candidates, notably Boric's former Minister of Public Security, Carolina Toja, and his former Minister of Labour, Janet Zara. 8 leftist parties have converged in the Unity for Chile coalition to elect a representative that will run for the November 16 presidential election. The other two candidates are Boric's Broad Front candidate Gonzalo Winter and the Green Social Regionalist Federation's Jaime Mullet. Colombia's lower house has approved a pension reform backed by leftist President Gustavo Petro for the second time following a constitutional court order to redo the vote due to procedural issues. The court's June ruling did not address the constitutionality of the bill but mandated that the lower house revote on the version passed by the Senate, stating that the initial vote lacked sufficient debate. The bill was backed by 97 lawmakers on Saturday, while one voted against it. The bill, intended to take effect in July pending court approval, seeks to boost the Colpensions Fund by requiring low-income earners to contribute and ensuring support for those lacking retirement savings. Now, Mexican authorities said that 32 people were arrested on Sunday as part of a powerful criminal organization dedicated to fuel theft in the center of the country amid growing operations to curb this crime. The operation took in fact place in 3 central states, the state of Mexico, which surrounds the nation's capital, Hidalgo and Querétaro areas that are among the hardest hit by this crime. The official added that some of those detained were even involved in forging documents and maintaining connections with local authorities to facilitate their operations. In addition to the arrest, nearly 50 vehicles, tractor-trailers, storage containers, weapons, ammunition, drugs and other items were also seized. In Cape Town's Maitland area, refugees living in a COVID-19 shelter since 2019 are protesting planned evictions. The city wants the land cleared for social housing, but many say authorities are dividing them from nearby settlement residents. Most of the refugees have lived legally in South Africa for over 10 years. They are now calling on the UNHCR to help them move to countries like Canada or Switzerland. Now, jurors on Monday will begin deliberating whether Sean Diddy Combs parlayed his celebrity, wealth and business empire into a decades-long criminal ring that saw him force women into drug-fueled sexual performances with escorts. Combs faces upwards of life in prison if convicted on 5 federal charges. On Friday, his lawyer vowed to skewer the credibility of his accusers, namely 2 women he dated for years, saying they were out for money while rejecting any notion he led a criminal ring. But in their final argument, prosecutors tore into the defense, saying Combs' team had contorted the facts endlessly. The verdict in mushroom murder trial could come as early as today. The triple murder trial of Australian Erin Patterson revolves around an innocuous-looking mushroom with a slightly sweet smell and a sinister name. Patterson is accused of killing her husband's parents and aunt in 2023 by lacing their beef Wellington lunch with highly toxic death cap mushrooms. Though the 50-year-old has strenuously denied the charges, saying the hearty meal was contaminated by accident. Let us now get you an infographic explainer on death cap mushroom, the deadliest fungus known to humans. Eating even a small amount of this mushroom can kill a person. Now, southern Europe is under an unrelenting heat dome with temperatures exceeding 40 degrees Celsius in many places. The mercury is expected to rise further in the coming days. Fires have also broken out in France and Turkey, while Spain, Portugal and Italy have been placed on heat wave alert. Our report.
Southern Europe is experiencing severe wildfires amid a heat wave that has been intensifying across the region. Almost entire France seems to be reeling. Wildfires have spread across the southwest part of the nation, prompting precautionary evacuations. French Weather Service has also issued an orange heatwave alert for 84 out of France's 101 regional departments for Monday. Further south, in Turkey, forest fires broke out on Sunday afternoon in the western Izmir province, led by strong winds. Firefighters, backed by specially adapted planes, were battling the blaze, but 5 neighborhoods in the Seferi Hisar district had to be evacuated. Spain, Italy, Greece, Portugal and the UK are also experiencing extreme temperatures. As Spain's Seville hosts United Nations' 4th International Conference on Financing for Development on Monday, the temperatures have soared to 48 degrees Celsius. Spain's National Weather Agency has also issued orange alert indicating high risk. In Italy, 21 cities were on high alert for extreme heat. Hospital emergency departments across the nation have reported a 10% increase in heat stroke cases. Several areas in the southern half of Portugal, including Lisbon, are also under a red warning until Monday. Meanwhile, in London, temperatures have risen above 30 degrees Celsius, a figure that is about 10 degrees above the average. According to the scientists, climate change is a major reason for intense heat wave, particularly in the cities where the so-called urban heat island effect amplifies temperatures among tightly packed buildings. Experts have also warned of biodiversity being heavily impacted as a result of worsening climate change situation. Bureau Report, DD India.
Meanwhile, Morocco is also experiencing a severe heat wave with temperatures breaking monthly records in many regions. The National Met Office reported temperatures exceeding seasonal norms by up to 20 degrees Celsius in some areas. Inland cities Marrakesh, Fez, Meknes and Beni Mellal experience heat 8 to 15 degrees Celsius above the norm. The heat wave is expected to continue in the interior of Morocco due to a Saharan thermal depression. While heavy rains in Venezuela's Andean region have caused widespread destruction with 103 houses destroyed, over 8,450 families isolated and 25 bridges collapsed. Livelihoods have been heavily impacted due to crop losses. The affected areas include several villages in the Merida mountain range. No fatalities have been reported according to local government officials. Activists in southern Spain, Sevilla, marched on Sunday calling for debt cancellation, climate justice and taxing the super-rich on the eve of a UN summit on financing development. The four-day meeting, held once every decade, promises to take on poverty, disease and climate change by mapping out the global framework for development. But the United States' decision to pull out and wealthy countries' shrinking appetite for foreign aid has dampened hopes that the summit will bring about significant change. However, hours earlier, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said that the conference is happening while conflict is raging across the globe is a reason to be hopeful. The summit kicks off from today. Hundreds of farmers, environmentalists and victims of pesticide exposure gathered at Paris Esplanade des Invalides to protest a proposed law that could bring banned insecticides back into use. The demonstrations comes ahead of a parliamentary committee meeting on the Diplom agricultural law, which critics say risk public health and environmental damage. Protesters could be seen carrying banners and sharing stories of harm caused by chemical use in farming. NGOs called on lawmakers to prioritize safer, sustainable agricultural practices instead of rolling back environmental protections. And in a major discovery, African researchers have recovered ancient enamel proteins from fossilized teeth in South Africa. This is the first time such proteins older than DNA have been found from a human relative that lived 2 million years ago. Researchers discovered fossilized remains at South Africa's Cradle of Humankind, a UNESCO World Heritage Site close to Johannesburg. They used an advanced method called paleoproteomics, which studies ancient proteins that survive longer than DNA, particularly useful in warmer regions like Africa. With this discovery, the project also marks a shift in leadership in a field that Western researchers have long dominated. Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar to visit US for Quad Foreign Ministers meeting from June 30th. Sri Amarnath Ji Yatra 2025 to begin on July 3rd amid heightened security and no-fly zone restrictions. And IMD issues alerts for heavy rainfall and strong winds at various places all across the country.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Recap of our top stories. US Senate inching towards vote on Donald Trump's spending bill. Many Republicans remain divided over the proposal, which would deliver key parts of Trump's domestic agenda while making massive cuts to social welfare programs. In Serbia, thousands of protesters continue to block major roads in Belgrade and other cities, demanding end to President Alexander Vucic's 12-year rule and snap elections. 2 firefighters shot dead with a high-powered rifle after responding to a brush fire in Idaho, US. Body of man found by SWAT team. Gun nearby. Area continues to report active wildfire. Wildfire risk as climate change fuels extreme heat wave in southern Europe. Italy, Greece, Spain and Portugal remain most affected. Most of France placed under heat wave alert. And in sports, Ayush Shetty ends India's BWF title drought in 2025, winning his first World Tour title, lifts the US Open Super 300 with a solid straight game win over Canada's Brian Yang. And third and oldest Grand Slam of the year, Wimbledon begins on Monday. Alcaraz, Sinner, Djokovic headline men's lineup. Sabalenka, Rybakina and Coco Gauff head women's lineup. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is set to visit the United States from June 30th to July 2nd at the invitation of US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. During the visit, Dr. Jaishankar will participate in the next edition of the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting scheduled for 1st July in Washington, D.C. The Quad Foreign Ministers will continue discussions from their last meeting held in Washington, D.C. on 21st January 2025. They will exchange views on regional and global developments, particularly those concerning the Indo-Pacific, and review the progress made on various Quad initiatives in the run-up to the Quad Leaders Summit, which will be held in India. It is expected to deliberate on new proposals aimed at advancing the shared vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific. The minister will also travel to New York on June 30th to inaugurate an exhibition titled The Human Cost of Terrorism at the United Nations headquarters. The exhibition will highlight the devastating toll of heinous terrorist acts around the world and the steps taken by the international community to combat terrorism. Recently, the Navy Chief awarded 13 gallantry medals to Navy personnel for bravery during Operation Sankalp in the Red Sea and Arabian Sea last year. Our correspondent Nandita Dagar spoke to some of these brave men from our Navy.
This was a massive operation both in terms of scale and in terms of area. This operation was carried out over an area of 51 lakh square kilometers, and that included the Gulf of Aden, the Arabian Sea, parts of the South and West Indian Ocean. And it was unprecedented, this kind of operations. 21 ships deployed, about 5,000 personnel. Coordination, like you said, there was coordination required between information coming from various agencies like the IFC, IOR, international agencies, merchant shipping companies. There were concurrent operations. So somewhere there was anti-piracy going on, somewhere there was anti-narcotics, somewhere the people were fighting fires, somewhere there was search and rescue. Also, we did a Marcos airdrop at 2,500 kilometers from the Indian shores, which was perhaps for the first time, and that required extensive coordination.
So this was an operation, a hostage rescue situation, wherein there was a vessel called fishing vessel Umari. It was hijacked. For 3 days it was under the control of pirates. There were 20 people on board. One was killed to create fear among the crew. And there were 7 pirates, all Somali. The hijacking took place somewhere near the equator. So we were 8 of us, and we did not have a backup boat. So we closed in, and thereafter we started shouting at the crew to stop the vessel. They were not stopping. They were trying to fake themselves as fishermen themselves and taking their boat. But we could see people on the lower decks raising their hands and showing red color flags and all that. They were, yes. So then we closed in. And we started shouting at them to haul the vessel. It took about almost 10-15 minutes, and they were under the influence of drugs. We were able to climb onto the boat. We overpowered all the pirates. And we got all the hostages upstairs, and then we started searching the boat. We found arms and ammunition with them. 6th of March 2024, I was the detachment commander of the helicopter on board INS Kolkata, and we were deployed in the Red Sea, man. So during that mission, we just got some information that some attack has happened, a rough position, but there were no details. The whole vessel was engulfed in the flames, and we still flew in close proximity of this two confidants to find out if there is someone who needs our help. But it was very evident that no one would have survived on board. So in my helicopter, I evacuated 8 personnel, ma'am, and then subsequently the information was given to our vessel Kolkata. They closed their life raft, and we successfully evacuated all 21 of them, and we had taken them to the nearest country of the Djibouti.
In Assam, an emergency landing facility is nearly complete on the under construction 4-lane Moran-Dibrugarh road. A 4.2-kilometer facility has been built with modern technology to allow all types of aircraft, including fighter jets like Rafale and Sukhoi, to land during emergencies. Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma reviewed the progress on Sunday in Moran. He said that this is the first such ELF in the northeast and is expected to be inaugurated in September. Mizoram's capital Aizawl is set to receive its first ever rail connectivity with the completion of the 51.38-kilometer Bairabi-Sairang broad gauge rail line. The Bairabi-Sairang rail line in Mizoram is fully complete and awaits inauguration, connecting Aizawl to India's rail network via Silchar. The project includes 48 tunnels and multiple bridges, marking a major boost to northeast connectivity and development. Despite facing challenging geographical conditions, the rail line has successfully connected Aizawl to the broader railway network. This project is a testament to the government's commitment to improving infrastructure in the northeastern states. The revered Kailash Mansarovar Yatra begins today, marking the pilgrimage's return after a 5-year pause. Lord Shiva's devotees will pass through Lipu Lake in Uttarakhand and Nathula Pass in Sikkim. Compared to the conventional Lipu Lake Pass approach, the Nathula route, which was opened in 2015, is a shorter and easier path. Pilgrims begin their journey across the Indo-China border in Gangtok, the capital of Sikkim. From there, they proceed to the sacred Lake Mansarovar and perform the revered circumambulation of Mount Kailash, a spiritual site sacred to Hindus, Buddhists as well as Jains. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Sunday during his 123rd episode of Mann Ki Baat extended his best wishes to all devotees undertaking the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra. And preparations are also underway for another journey of faith. Sri Amarnath Ji Yatra 2025 will commence on 3rd July. The cave is located at over 12,700 feet above sea level and contains a naturally formed ice shivling said to represent Lord Shiva. DGP Jammu and Kashmir continue to review security arrangements, asking all security agencies to take proactive and preventive measures to counter any potential threats. He emphasized strict adherence to standard operating procedures and robust coordination among forces to ensure a peaceful and safe pilgrimage. All routes of the Yatra, including Pahalgam and Baltal axis, have been declared as a no-flying zone from July 1st to August 10. Consequently, helicopter services for pilgrim travel shall not be available in all the Yatra area. All pilgrims planning to visit the holy shrine are advised to reach on foot or avail the services of ponies and palkis throughout the Yatra. It will conclude on 9th August. And with the monsoon finally making its much-awaited foray into Delhi, as announced by the India Met Department, June is set to end wetter and cooler than usual, keeping in line with the trend the previous month as Delhi recorded its wettest May historically. Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand and West Bengal are set to receive very heavy rain. Furthermore, several districts of Gujarat have been issued an orange alert along the western coast. Heavy rainfall in the upper catchment areas of Odisha's Balasore and Mayurbhanj district has heightened fears of a large-scale flood. Authorities have issued alerts to the district collectors of these two districts to remain vigilant. Heavy rainfall is also expected in Punjab, Haryana and Chandigarh until July 2nd. The IMD issued a red alert in Uttarakhand, citing extreme rainfall, lightning and thunderstorms in the hilly state. The current monsoon season has already wreaked havoc at several places in Himachal Pradesh. Most of the districts are experiencing heavy to very heavy rains. For the last 12 hours, Met Department had issued red alert for 4 districts, including Kangra, Mandi, Solan and Sirmaur, where schools and educational institutions have been closed by the orders of district administration. Administration and SDRF are in high alert as next few days are going to be challenging for the people of Himachal Pradesh. All right, and to get us the latest on the weather updates in Shimla, Himachal Pradesh, we are joined by DD India's Muskan Chaudhary. Muskan, red alert has been issued at several places in Himachal Pradesh. What is the latest that you can tell us from there in Shimla, and also what is the forecast for the next few days?
Abhishek, the monsoon in Himachal Pradesh has already started creating a havoc, and the state has experienced heavy rainfall since last 12 hours, and Meteorological Department has issued red alert in 4 districts, that is Kangra, Mandi, Sirmaur and Solan. And these 4 districts, the schools and all the educational institutions will be closed, and administration has advised people not to get out of homes or not to make unnecessary trips, and if it is compulsory, then only you should be moving out of your home. And they have advised the tourists who are coming to the state to check the weather beforehand and to keep in touch with the local administrations, and they have advised people not to wander off in the landslide prone areas or the areas which are closely related to the water bodies. And the last night, the state has been experiencing a very heavy rainfall since the last night, and there has been reports of landslides and flash floods in the last 12 hours. And in the current update, there has been a cloudburst in Rampur, though there were no human life lost in that accident. But there has been a damage to 1 home and 1 cow shed. And Meteorological Department has issued red alert for the next 24 hours as well.
All right, Muskan, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for getting us the latest from Shimla. Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Dollar near 4-year low against euro as Fed rate cut, bets rise amid Trump pressure on Powell. India's women boxer set for season debut at World Boxing Cup in Kazakhstan. And Colombian festival honors donkeys as farmers' closest ally.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Business updates now. Asian shares climbed on Monday, powered by unrelenting demand for technology stocks as S&P 500 futures soared to another record high, while the US dollar remained under pressure. Nasdaq futures was up 0.3% and S&P 500 E-minis 0.2% higher. Japan's Nikkei 2 gained 1.0%. South Korea's market added 0.5%, while the MSCI Asia Pacific Index, excluding Japan, edged up 0.1%. Meanwhile, attention also turned to the slow progress of a U.S. tax and spending bill, with the Congressional Budget Office warning it could add $3.3 trillion to national debt, raising concerns about foreign appetite for U.S. treasuries. The dollar index, which measures the U.S. currency against 6 major counterparts, including the euro, sterling and franc, edged up 0.1% to 97.276, but was still not far from the more than 3-year low of 96.933 late last week. U.S. President Donald Trump said that he did not plan to extend the July 9 tariff deadline he set for countries to broker deals with the U.S. In an interview aired on Sunday, Trump said he doesn't think he'll need to extend the July 9 trade deadline he has imposed on countries to secure deals with the U.S. to avoid high tariffs. Meanwhile, a trade deal cutting tariffs on British exports of automobiles and aerospace equipment to the United States takes effect from today as the two sides continue to negotiate over steel duties. London and Washington reached an agreement in May to cut U.S. tariffs on cars from 27.5% to 10% with a limit of 100,000 vehicles a year. It also fully eliminated a 10% tariff on goods such as engines and aircraft parts. In return, Britain agreed to further open its market to U.S. ethanol and beef. And days after U.S. President Donald Trump called off trade talks, Canada has rescinded its digital services tax targeting U.S. technology firms in a bid to advance trade negotiations with the U.S. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney and Trump will resume trade negotiations in order to agree on a deal by July 21st. On Friday, Trump abruptly cut off trade talks with Canada over its tax targeting U.S. technology firms, saying that it was a blatant attack and that he would set a new tariff rate on Canadian goods within the next week. The tax was 3% of the digital services revenue a firm takes in from Canadian users, about $20 million in a calendar year, and payments will be retroactive to 2022. Canada is the second largest U.S. trading partner after Mexico and the largest buyer of U.S. exports. It bought $349.4 billion of U.S. goods last year and exported $412.7 billion to the U.S. according to U.S. Census Bureau data. In Japan, homes where people died alone or tragically called jikobuken are gaining attention as real estate prices soar. These homes are cheaper, sometimes 20% less due to the stigma linked to death spirits or past crimes. Still, investors are snapping up these homes to avoid construction costs and save money. As the population ages, more people die alone, often undiscovered for days, leading to more such properties. Some agents even inspect for paranormal activity. With rising cost and growing foreign interest, many investors see these homes as smart buys. To ease buyers' minds, some firms even offer cleansing rituals. Sports updates now. We'll start with badminton. India shuttler Ayush Shetty claims the US Open Badminton Championships title with a commanding straight game win over Brian Yang of Canada in the men's singles final. The 20-year-old defeated Yang 21-18, 21-13 to cap off an impressive week. It was Shetty's maiden BWF World Tour trophy. Ayush also became the first Indian shuttler to win a tournament this season, ending the nation's wait for a men's singles crown away from home since Lakshya Sen's triumph at the Canada Open in 2023. In the women's singles final, Tanvi Sharma finished runner-up after she went down fighting against top seed Beiwen Zhang of United States. Playing her first World Tour final, the 16-year-old lost 11-21, 21-16, 10-21. Now, third and oldest Grand Slam of the year, Wimbledon, begins on Monday. In the men's singles, French Open finalists Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner as the clear front-runners, while world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka and French Open winner Coco Gauff will headline the women's lineup. Seven-time champion Novak Djokovic, who has not won any Grand Slam since 2023, will also count his chance. Here's the report.
The 138th edition of the prestigious grass court Grand Slam Wimbledon Championship begins Monday. Spain's Carlos Alcaraz will bid for a third men's title in a row after beating Novak Djokovic in the past two finals. While Alcaraz rival and world number one Yannick Sinner will hope to bounce back after losing to the Spaniard in one of the all-time great French Open finals in June.
I'm coming here thinking that I really want to win the title. I really want to lift the trophy. Not thinking about how much players have done it. Winning three or three Wimbledons in a row. I'm just thinking about I just want to be ready. I just want to prepare myself in the best way possible.
I feel good. I feel, especially mentally, I feel in a very good spot. Halle was a little bit different because before I haven't had so much time to cut that off. I feel like that I'm playing great tennis on grass, and hopefully I can show this also in the match courts.
Serbia's all-time great Novak Djokovic continues to seek a record 25th major title. Djokovic has reached the final of the last 6 Wimbledons, losing the last 2 to Spaniard Alcaraz. He has not added to his Grand Slam collection since the 2023 US Open.
I would probably agree that Wimbledon could be the best chance because of the results I had, because of how I feel, how I play in Wimbledon, just getting that extra push mentally and motivation to perform the best tennis at the highest level.
Top-ranked Aryna Sabalenka and French Open champion Coco Gauff are among the favourites for the women's title. Sabalenka, with 3 Grand Slams to her name, has yet to make the final of a Wimbledon tournament, falling in the semi-finals in 2021 and 2023. Former Wimbledon champion Alina Rybakina and American world number 2 Coco Gauff have the second and third best odds in the run-up to the grass court tournament. Gauff comes in with high confidence after securing her major French Open title, though the 21-year-old American has thus far struggled at Wimbledon, exiting in the 4th round on the 3 separate occasions. 5-time Grand Slam winner Poland's Iga Swiatek has never made it past the quarterfinals of Wimbledon, but comes in with the 4th best odds to clinch the title. The total prize money for the upcoming edition is $72.59 million, an increase of 7% from 2024. The winners of the men's and women's singles titles will each receive $4.08 million, an increase of more than 11% since 2024. Abhishek Prasad reports for DD India.
Boxing now, India's women boxers will make their first appearance of the season at the World Boxing Cup in Kazakhstan, which begins on Monday. The 10-member women's squad includes Paris Olympian and Commonwealth Games medalist Jasmine Lamboria, along with Tokyo Olympian and former Asian champion Pooja Rani. Meanwhile, the 10-member men's boxing team remains unchanged from Brazil meet, where they won 6 medals. The Kazakhstan leg will run until 7th July in Astana city, where over 400 boxers from 31 countries will compete across 10 weight categories in both men's and women's divisions. The Brazil leg marked the first of 3 World Boxing Cups scheduled this year. The series will conclude with the final event in India this November. And the small town of Moniquera in central Colombia celebrated its 19th regional donkey contest on Sunday. What started out 23 years ago as a fun way to honor local farmers and the donkeys who have long been their loyal sidekicks has grown into a beloved tradition in the Boyacá province. Organizers and participants say the event is all about shining a spotlight on the important role the donkeys still play in farming life. And that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.